validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. Good Monday night. It was long. Boy, was it long. I got to tell you. I have yet again been counting my blessings. I appreciate the fact that I was able to accomplish a lot of the things that I was able to accomplish. I've come to find slow and steady wins the race. You know, you never want to bog everything down at one time because it is overwhelming. When you think that you've got a lot to do, you actually have a lot to do. But when you do a little bit at a time, over time, start early. That way you have more time and you don't have to worry about finishing late. You'll find yourself in a situation where you actually get a lot of your stuff done. And I'm glad to say that I was able to cross over that hurdle. I got a couple things left that I got to take care of. And then after that, then I'll be on to getting started with some of those cooking videos that we were talking about. I have to look into, or not just look into, but acquire the chef, the apron that we were talking about getting, and some of the this and that cups and stuff, so that we have a little bit of stuff going on around here, product wise, product endorsements. Got to do some of that. In addition to that, I'm also going to touch base with Vino Tinto and figure out what's going on with them. try to see if I can purchase the wine myself since they haven't provided the wine, see what's up with that. It's an investment, but it's also an opportunity because, I mean, if I'm doing cooking shows and I'm doing the cooking shows with the Vino Canto wine, then getting my hands on the Vino Canto wine would be an important thing to do. And that's going to be like, I will be able to marinate the chicken with that wine and other stuff like that. So there's going to be some other reasons why I'm acquiring it, because I mean, it's going to make the cooking videos a little bit more to do for those of us with a little bit more of a mature palate. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe as you come into the show. Also, if you haven't done so, try looking into joining a membership. Utilize those reaction buttons on your way in. Remember, we are live 7 nights a week. We're supposed to tee this bad boy off about 37 minutes ago. It's like 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's like 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, and 7 o'clock California time. And even though we do start a little bit late every day of the week because we've got so many things going on over here, we don't let the sun rise without going live. And as a result, I definitely want to make sure that you guys note that I appreciate your patience as we get things rolling. And we've got something new for you guys every night of the week. Now, we've got Bayside in here first time tonight, running on 66 days of investments. Investing his time into a podcast. They're going to be telling you all kinds of stuff about getting all kinds of stuff. While we show some love for Mr. Satellite coming in, Bayside had sent me a happy Easter message in the comment section after the show, and I was able to recognize that and show Bayside some love right before the show today. So I definitely appreciate Bayside for giving me a what's up for Easter. As I told you guys, I checked the comment sections, and I definitely put responses to those comments. So you'll never see a situation where I'm ignoring the fans, because if you guys ever send me a message, I will be able to get back to you guys to the best of my ability. I try to do it within 24 hours. Usually I'm good at that. There's those situations where I just got so much to do where it might be like 28 hours, but you'll get a response. Now, today I decided that we were supposed to be talking about retirement. We're going to be talking about retirement in more than one reason, because we're going to be talking about how the tariffs are impacting retirement. We're talking about the policies that Elon Musk and Donald Trump have been enforcing with the Doge policy, and how that is affecting the retirement, and then what Gen Zs have in store for them as they walk their way into retirement. Now, all of this is going to lead us to some other things related to why I talk to you guys on a regular basis about building yourself generational wealth, and why I talk to you guys about finding a 5, 10, 20-year plan so that you guys can find yourselves financially successful before you reach retirement age. They claim that retirement age is around 60, 65 years old. And if you're close to that right now, you're wanting to do you a nice little 10 or 20-year plan so that by the time you're 60, you don't have to work. Being middle-aged myself, I feel like in the next 20, 25 years, I should be in the spot that I want to be in financially so that I don't have to work. It doesn't mean that I'm not gonna, it just means that I don't have to. And there is a big difference with that, because it's not about being lazy in life. It's about putting up a safety net where if your health isn't up to it, if you've got other things going on in your life, that you still can maintain a level of stability. And with the increases of inflation and other such things that's going on, it does not make sense for you to be in a position where you're living paycheck to paycheck, knowing that inflation is eating away at your paycheck at the same time. And that's one of the reasons why I'm talking about the retirement scenario, because I know that when I was going to college back in 2012, we were talking about how there would ultimately not have a Social Security system by 2030 or 2060, something to that effect, because there'd be no more reserves left. And Now, while that's not necessarily a discussion these days, the fact is that the distribution of retirement services from the government is not as much as it used to be. And we're going to be talking about that coming soon. Now, while the distributions of government services is lower than what it used to be, inflation is higher than what it used to be. And the inverse of the two is causing negative lifestyle impacts, where individuals who have a general monthly income from the government still do not legally make enough money to live, which is a business opportunity for some of us. And that's another reason why I'm going to talk about this. So I want you guys to hang out with me as we go through this. In 2025, Americans living on fixed income, these are the retirees, people with disabilities, and veterans. They're facing relentless financial squeezes from every direction. Tariffs have pushed prices up by 3% almost overnight and drained $4,900 a year from the average household, and hitting the poorest families the hardest with a $2,200 annual loss. That eats up about 5.1% of their income, more than twice the burden faced by the wealthiest. And I think that what people don't understand by that, because when we talk about how there's like, oh yeah, $2,200, that's not a lot of money over the course of 12 months. Bro, that's almost $200 a month that they're taking out of the poorest of the poor who are living from paycheck to paycheck. That's grocery money right there. You can't even afford to eat when that kind of capital is coming out of your pocket. When people think, oh, well, it's only $2,000 a year, $2,200 a year, it's not that much. No, that's pretty significant. Real quick, special shout out to KJ. KJ's in the house today. We're going to show KJ a little bit of love as KJ comes through, and then we're going to get back to our topic. So make sure you just stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe as you come in. KJ says, if I call a lady a brick house, tell her she's mighty, and I love the way she lets it all hang out. Could she sue me? Yes, of course she can. I'll elaborate for just a moment. Got to get my coffee. Okay. But let's talk about country to country now, because there's a couple of different countries. So first, because it's kind of in line with what we're talking about, because you're mentioning brick houses, and I'm gonna be talking to you guys about building houses in a moment. Calling a lady brick house is not necessarily the issue. Insinuating that she can let it all hang out could be considered a derogatory claim, and that derogatory claim could potentially be perceived as sexual harassment. In Hong Kong, lawsuits can happen from sexual harassment, which is why men do not want to provide CPR to women, because the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation requires an unconsensual kiss to provide oxygen to the person, and unconsensual touching to provide compressions to the chest, which is reasonably misconstruable as accosting the person. And then some of those same laws exist in America, but America has Good Samaritan laws and goodwill laws, good faith laws, which prevents individuals from taking legal action in some scenarios when you're trying to help them. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to happen. So yeah, if the only difference is that in Hong Kong and like South Korea and stuff like that, where this is a big scenario, is that the people over there, everybody knows each other. So if you do something wrong, all they got to do is just go and report you by name to the other person, which makes it easier for them to throw down legal action. But here in America, nobody knows anybody. In order for you to take that exact same legal action that does exist here in America, they would have to identify you first. And then they would have to identify your whereabouts, because you have to be officially served by the court. And if they cannot find your place of address, and they cannot find you in passing where a process server can serve you in passing, then they cannot provide you with a legal action in order to get reparations for that harassment. But yeah, you can get sued for it. Special shout out to Bayside. Bayside's back. I got your message from you, Bayside. I really appreciate you. He sent me that happy Easter. I was talking to you guys about that right as the show started. I sent him a response back. I typically respond on a daily basis. But I guess he messaged me right after I got off. So when I got back on, that's the first thing I did was check messages. And I really appreciate that. KJ wants to name the musical groups. This is from our This and That exclusive music. You can find that in the descriptions, either down below or off to the right. And you guys can click those links and it'll take you to the YouTube channel, or click the other link below the name and it'll take you to Amazon Prime where you can purchase it yourself. That's how I live. And then we're going to get back to the topic at hand. So make sure that you guys like and subscribe on your way in. Make sure that you're mashing those reaction buttons. I love this part too. It's like you reach a certain part of the song and you're just like, let it ride, let it ride. He said, all good, Xander. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, that reminds me of Lil Jon. Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. If you step up in the club, what they gonna do? Now, today we're talking about fixed income retirees and real estate deficits with their ability to find and maintain housing. So we're going to be talking about that real quick. And we're going to go through a lot of things, because we're going to talk about how those old cats are struggling right now and how the young guys are going to be struggling coming soon. And when you see the statistics, you're going to be like, holy crap, we dodged a bullet. Now, we understand that essentials, everyday essentials. Oh yeah, you're gonna love this topic. You're gonna love this topic, because when I touch on something, I don't just talk about it. I don't just rant about it on a long logistical scenario. I actually give you guys like critical thinking information related to the topic, where you're like, whoa, I didn't even think about it like that. And if you share it with somebody that's impacted by the topic, they're probably going to say the same thing. Well, I didn't think about that. Some people might want to argue against it, and by all means, you definitely want to give them a link, because they got something to say they could put in the comment section. I take all challengers. But those everyday essentials that I was just talking about are starting to become more and more out of reach, where food prices have climbed 2.6% recently. The shoes are climbing. Also, they skyrocketed to about 87% increases, and clothes up to 65% increases. So when we thought that it was only going to be like 17% or 24%, it has gone up a fantastically large amount. Now, for those on fixed income, there's no chance to make up the difference with higher wages, where their benefits simply don't keep up. And you have to understand that the difference between those hourly wage workers that can put in extra overtime and offset the inflation, fixed income individuals where they're getting a specific quantity of money per month, every month, they are not able to offset the cost of living. They just have to deal with it. They have to accept less and spend more. Meanwhile, rent is quickly climbing again. The national median rent rose about 0.6% from February to March. Now it is sitting at $1,384, which is 20% higher than just 4 years ago. In 82 of the 100 largest cities, rent are up. And the average one bedroom costs about $1,575 a month. Despite a construction boom last year, the affordable housing shortage is worse than ever. For every 100 extremely low income renters, there are only 35 affordable homes available. Now, leaving 3/4 of these households spending more than half their income on rent. I just want to touch base on that real quick. That is insane. Because for anybody who wants to make a buck, do you see where there is a demand? Do you see? When we talk about going into real estate and flipping houses, and I keep telling you guys to buy and hold, rent them out, what I keep telling you guys when you go into real estate, I tell you, undercut the market. Have your prices lower than everybody else's. Don't be greedy. Have more houses pay you less money so that you can have more money overall. Do you realize two things you can do? One, if you're the cheapest house on the market, respectfully. And two, you get affiliated with HUD and Section 8 housing programs. You get guaranteed money from the government from your renters. And at the same time, you are going to have a larger quantity of people applying for your property. Now, we've seen the one of those TikTok hacks where they're like, "Oh yeah, life hack. It's a dirty way to go about doing it, but you can make a bunch of money from your property." They say, "Well, lower the price of the property, and then charge everybody an application fee. And then, like a lottery, just select somebody." That's exactly what you're supposed to do. You do one more thing. Never raise the rent. You only raise the rent when the tenant moves out and you renovate the apartment and you put a new tenant in there. That's when you raise the rent. You basically treat them as a fixed income scenario, a fixed rent scenario. And what that does is that instead of you trying to take more money out of the broke people on your property, you will get guaranteed income from those people forever. You are more likely to have a 99% retention rate if your rent never increases during inflation versus properties that are trying to beat inflation and offset their expenses by putting it onto the tenants. You would do better expanding your reach and renting out to more people and getting the difference from more people, where a few hundred people giving you an extra dollar is not nearly as impactful as 50, 75 people giving you $300. Each individual person can't afford it. Now, the other thing that I think about, because we're going to continue with this, is that if you're getting guaranteed money from Section 8 and HUD houses, you have a real estate investment business that goes into buying houses and selling them to your holding company that will hold the property and then lease it out to your real estate management company, which is 3 different businesses. And all of these businesses can be involved in a trust where profits from each one can go into the trust. You've got one closing the deals, where selecting houses is done from one entity, the other one maintaining possession, and the one that's always in court for bad rent scenarios, that is the only entity that is ever seen on court records. The person that has possession of the property is never seen on record, because you're only in court for the breach of contracts. You very rarely see the property owner in court for some type of injury on the property because a tenant did something stupid. You more often than not see breach of contracts. You more often than not see terminations of leases and possessions of premises, which means that the landlord is always in the court system. So if one business is in the court system for the landlord scenario, one business is closing contracts with sellers, which you never have a problem there because you're putting up the money. They're going to sell you the property. You're going to buy that. Outside of them misrepresenting the property and then you're not getting what you paid for, you don't see any legal actions over there. And then as the holding company, nobody knows who the holding company is. They can't sue you if they don't know who you are. Now, all of this sets you up a nice little residual scenario, because you can start paying people to manage your properties. You can start paying people to close deals and buying you properties. You can take the profits from your tenants to pay on your loans and your mortgages. You can use stocks to buy the property, then use mortgages to mortgage 50% of the property to have the tenants pay the mortgage, have the stock pay for the cash loan, and all of your profits that you're getting from the loans can go into your pocket or reinvest it into your stock option, and you're not paying taxes on nothing. I wanted to just throw that out at the beginning of this conversation so that you can understand that with the, I'm going to go back over it so that we see what's going on. You've got, what do we say? 100 extremely low income renters, there's only 35 affordable houses. So that means that out of every 100 extremely low renters, you have the ability to create 65 more low income houses. Now, out of a population of 100,000, that means that you've got about 65,000 houses that you could create in any city or state and accomplish a revenue stream. Even if your percentage margin is 2 or 3%, because the only reason why the real estate market is so expensive is because a lot of the business owners are trying to get 20, 40, 50%. They want to double the money that they put in. And that's the greed is the reason why the rent is going up. But if you're not doing this for the money, because you're going to get money one way or another, if you're doing it in a way where it benefits somebody else and you're going to turn you a little bit of a profit, 1 to 2%. And that's not a lot in comparison to the stock market, but it's a guaranteed generation of more income where the profits from that can funnel its way into your stock options, where the profits from your stock options pay for your standard of living. So you don't need money. You just need to expand so that you're not taxed on all the money that you're making. That is a completely different lifestyle. Now, if you're able to create 65, if you're able to create 30 more houses out of the 100 people that don't have a affordable place to live, if you're able to create 30 more houses, you are able to generate, and that's in every city, in every state, you are able to generate more businesses. You are able to create more jobs. You are able to get government funding because there's grants for that. And there's so many, I told you guys once before that on grants.gov, you can find so many government grants where they offer joint venture grants for nonprofits and for-profit entities to develop low-income housing scenarios to rectify this exact problem. So if you are affiliated with the nonprofit that gets government funding to help you acquire a rental property that you will then provide to a low-income family, where you are going to cover the spread on the 65 missing houses per 100 people that need a house, you would be able to get a lot of your overhead covered on the development of the houses, on the acquisition of the houses. Only requirement is to put low-income people into the houses. Shit, that's a win-win. You're giving me free money that I don't have to pay back so that I can turn a profit off of helping somebody else not sleep on the sidewalk. I don't have a problem with that, but this comes from not being greedy. Most of the wealthiest Fortune 500 people are greedy. Most of the nonprofit entities are not, are playing it by the strings, really. Barely breaking even, which is why they got to get so many donations. But if you're going to do this right, you're going to do this in a way where you are going to benefit plenty of institutions. And then you can not only do that, you can go into developments for small businesses and other such, where you can help low-income startups become successful, because your goal is to turn profits. As long as you're making more money than the money that you borrowed, where you're able to break even on the loan cost and accept the profits from your dividend distributions, you're doing all right. So as long as you're not hurting financially, it doesn't matter if you've got a 1% profit margin or a 40% profit margin. What matters is that your businesses are not under. long as you're not owing more money than your businesses are making, where you personally have to take money out of your stock option and pay for business debt. That's when you're doing bad. But this right here, fantastic market, nobody's messing with. Why? Because people are greedy. Other people don't want to deal with responsibility. Other people don't want to invest the time and effort to set something like this up, because it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort. You're probably going to have to start off with one house at a time, and you're going to have to work your way up asset wise to acquire enough capital to buy family units. You're probably going to start with duplexes and fourplexes and work your way up to actual apartment complexes. You're going to have to look at your available capital in order to see exactly how often you can expand. However, if you found the right margin, you would be able to find yourself expanding more often than not, because all of the money that you're making off of the application fee, unallocated cash. You got all the cheapest apartments in the city, unallocated cash. That means that it doesn't have anywhere to go. Security deposits have to be set aside so that if and when those tenants move out, they qualify to get their security deposit back. They get their security deposit back. But the application fee, that's your money. So you can make a large quantity of money, put the house up for rent for 60 days and then pick somebody. As a matter of fact, if you got an apartment complex there, you put the place up for rent and you take a bunch of applications in and you pick a couple people at a time. You could do first in, first out and just pick a couple people at a time. Just give it a 2-week delay on a response. And all of the money that people are putting in on those applications, and you will fill up your place. And application fees are going up these days. People don't understand this. Like you're looking at like anywhere between $25 and $75 per application fee. But if it's a guaranteed application, most low-income individuals that look at an application fee, the first question they ask is, am I going to be denied? Because I don't want to pay the application fee. If it's a non-refundable application fee, I don't want to be denied. If you do a non-refundable application fee, it's like, well, we'll see what we can do. Now, if you're doing a chain of apartment complexes in this city, you might not have a unit in that location, but regardless of their background, you're going to put them somewhere. You'll be able to call them back. Hey, it's a non-refundable application fee, but even though you can't rent from here, you can rent over there. And it's up to them as to whether or not they want to move. But you didn't turn them away. So you are setting yourself up with the type of status where everybody's going to come to you and rent. And all of those application fees add up. 100 people give you $75. That's $70,500 before the apartment is rented out. And that's per unit. $7,500 worth of applicants for 100 applicants per unit. You have 10 units. You just made $75,000 in 1 month. See what I'm saying? This is this is to start up a complete untapped market where 65% of the homeless population need this anyway. The highest demand in real estate with the lowest value. It is the most underrated approach ever. Now, here goes another thing. Strict approval rules. Wait, hold on. Let me see what we got going on here. Yeah. So there's 3/4 of the households that are spending more than half of their income on the rent, and strict approval rules means that many fixed income families are locked into the private market and stuck on endless wait lists for help. And this is because when you're doing Section 8 and HUD, there's a list and it's supposed to be first in, first out. And with that process, it takes a longer time for you to get accepted because, as they say, there's 100 people for every 35 houses. So 65 people never get picked. And it's not like these people are passing through like the DMV. They move into this house and they stay there for a few years before they move out. So that one address may not be available to you for 5 or 10 years. You're waiting on a list for years sometimes until at least one address is available for you when you're on these waiting lists. Now, if you are in the requirement of moving now, you got to get out now. And based on that, what you need is a accessible now unit. Well, you can charge high risk fees for people to move in. You say, hey, well, for high risk tenants, you have a larger down payment on a unit, but I'll let you in anyway with your eviction, with your whatever you got going on, as long as you don't have a felony that prevents you from living on this property because this property might be located too close to a school. As long as that's not an issue for you, or you'll end up going to jail and not being able to pay my rent, as long as that's not an issue, we're good to go. High risk tenants pay higher rates, and they'll accept that. Especially if the rent is still low. Say, for example, normally they charge you, first month's rent as a security deposit. Some might charge you first month's rent, last month's rent for security deposit. You might say, hey, you got to give me first 3 months rent as a security deposit just to cover your high riskness. I'm charging you $700 a month in a market that's charging almost $1,500 for the same unit. Now, some people are saying, bro, that's stupid. Think about it. Because a lot of the low income individuals are able to afford to pay $700 or $800 a month on their $2,000 income. You tell them, well, you got to give me $2,100. You can move in. They might say, well, I don't have it. All right, well, I tell you what, give me what you can. We'll break up your move in, and you just give me more for the first 3 months that you stay here. And then once you total that $2,100 deposit, then we'll move you down to the $700. I still made $2,100 for you to stay here. And that's after the $75,000 worth of application fees for people to ask to stay here. Bro, I don't know why we're not doing this. Because if you make the place affordable enough, they're less likely to not be able to pay on time. And especially if you're dealing with the older community, there's less likeliness of having crime. That's why you see those restricted housing communities that are talking about the 55 and older. That's why they do those, because of 55 and older, I'm too old for this shit. So you ain't gonna have all that, gang fights and all this other stuff, the kids messing up stuff and nothing like that, because everybody over there old. They not just grown, they old. And you could do that. You could literally set you up. You could do two types of communities. You could do the restricted age communities, which is guaranteed good quality, and then you've got the average everyday low income communities. Massive market. Now, the safety net is fraying. Social Security and veterans benefits are supposed to protect the vulnerable, but the 2025 cost of living adjustment is just 2.5%. So the smallest in years and barely ahead of inflation. Nearly every senior says it's not enough, and most are now looking for ways to make ends meet, with almost 1 in 10 heading back to work. That's why you have all those old people as door greeters at Walmart. The average Social Security increase is just $49 a month, nowhere near enough to cover the rising costs of food, rent, and healthcare, because remember, he privatized a lot of that stuff. Now, most older adults, especially renters, simply can't cover basic expenses on Social Security alone. To make matters worse, a new Social Security rule allows the government to take away 100% of a person's monthly benefits to recover alleged overpayments, up from the previous 10% cap. That means any senior or disabled person caught up in a paperwork tangle could suddenly lose their entire check until the debt is repaid, often through no fault of their own. With office closures and jammed phone lines, getting help is harder than ever. And the fact is that now I understand how they feel, because some people are like, well, it's not my fault. They made a mistake. Yeah, but you kept the money. You kept the money. If you were supposed to get a specific quantity of money this month and they gave you 10 times more than what you were supposed to get because they accidentally put a zero on the back of your money, you got to get that money back. Now that they'd have found out about it. Now, if you would have been smart, you should have took that extra money and invested it, but I know you didn't. But had you would have been making extra money this whole time. And then when they did decide to take your check, you would have a whole nother check coming from somewhere else and you wouldn't care about it. But nah. Somebody, instead of getting 8,000, got 10,000 and took that 10,000 and went and bought them a $5,000 car, put some rims on it, threw a couple speakers in the bag. Now they broke again. And now the government about to take your check. Well, you're going to be living in your car, because if you're supposed to be getting $1,000 a month and they gave you 10, they're going to be taking 9 monthly payments from you until you pay them back. And you're not getting income tax refunds or nothing like that. So you have nothing that you can offset that debt with unless you borrow money from a friend. Hey, let me borrow 9 stacks, man. Remember I gave you that $500? Let me borrow 9 stacks. Now, the bottom line here is Americans on fixed income are being squeezed by rising prices, soaring rents, and shrinking supply of affordable housing, which nobody really cares about trying to replenish, and benefits that lag behind the true cost of living. With new policies threatening to cut Social Security for those accused of overpayments, millions of seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities are being forced to choose between food, medicine, and shelter, with little hope for relief on the horizon. Now, imagine what life could look like for millions of elderly Americans and veterans over the next 20 years if nothing changes. The cost of groceries, rent, and Medicare keeps climbing, but their monthly checks barely budge. Right now, since Social Security and veterans benefits are only rising by 2.5% a year, while real war prices are for essentials are outpacing that, by 2045, these benefits could fall 30 to 40% short of what seniors actually need to get by. If tariffs and supply chain issues keep pushing prices up, a typical fixed income household could lose as much as a $75,000 value in buying power over 2 decades. Already, 11.7 million senior households spend more than half their income on rent, with rents expected to rise 3 to 5% each year. 60% of elderly and veteran renters could be facing crushing housing costs by 2035, which is just 10 years from now. The number of homeless aging veterans already up 150% since 2010 could triple by 2045 as more veterans live into their 80s and 90s and need expensive care for conditions like dementia and heart disease. But nearly half of senior citizens have no emergency savings, and 80% can't afford 2 years of in-home care. Healthcare isn't much of a safety net either. Even with Medicare, out-of-pocket costs for things like prescriptions, dental work, and long-term care, think $11,000 a month for a nursing home, could eat up 50 to 75% of a fixed income by 2040, which also means you could create low-income nursing homes to aid with that 70 plus range of individuals that could really utilize some assistive care in their housing. Now, I understand there's a lot of risk involved. You got insurances that you got to pay for and all this stuff. But think about the fact that there's government grants for that. So the cost of doing business is to get it started, and the profits of doing business is to keep it going. So it really requires you to have a better setup where you're making more than you're spending. But what you have to do is you have to look at the cost of the house. You have to look at the cost to get the house rentable. Then you have to look at the cost of the loan, and then try to have the rent close enough to covering the cost of the loan with a little extra money on the side in case you need to repair some stuff and cover some property taxes and HOA fees if you're buying a house in an HOA location, and then you're good. Because again, if you walk away with 1% after everything is said and done, you're still doing all right. Now, for post 9/11 veterans, 41% of whom have a service-connected disability. This means even more strain on VA budgets and family finances. To make matters worse, the new Social Security rule that we talked to you guys about that is flagging overpayment is going to negatively impact about 15 million Americans by 2045, where they could see only the income that they was getting by the government vanishing overnight, pushing them further into poverty. And if Congress doesn't shore up Social Security finances across the board, benefit cuts of 20 to 25% could hit as soon as 2035, devastating 47 million households already on the edge. These are called at-risk living environments. And if you're searching for the grants, at-risk communities or at-risk households or at-risk living environment, if you just go to grants.gov and type in the search bar at risk, you will see all kinds of grants for housing developments for exactly this. And I'm talking about like $500,000, $1.5 million. I'm talking about like 500,000. Like that. They throwing up cash. They're like $15 million grant program where they're offering $500,000 to $2 million per applicant upon approval. All you got to do is show them that you're doing what they're looking for, and they'll basically reimburse you for it so that you can do it again. So if it costs you $500,000, well, most of us don't have that, but if it costs you $500,000 to start building facilities that would aid low-income housing, you show them a blueprint of how you're managing low-income housing environments, and they will start giving you money to do more low-income housing environments. So instead of you having to cash out and reinvest in your investment, you would just need the U.S. government to invest in your investment for you, and then you just turn a profit off of the people that rented the property. If you build it, they will come. If it's worth it, they will invest. Picture this, though. 1 in 3 elderly veterans facing homelessness or unstable housing, VA waiting lists stretching for years, and 70% of rural seniors unable to find affordable assisted living. A quarter of retirees, which is about 25 or 30%, may be forced back into the workforce. But with age discrimination and health problems, many will find doors closed. Now, I know that we were talking about discrimination in a couple of our shows before. And the reason why I don't talk about discrimination is because they're not going to stop you from doing something just because you got a damn good tan. But they are going to say that you are overqualified for this particular job position because you're trying to get an intro level position as a cashier, and you have been the manager of a Fortune 500 bank for 25 years. They are going to tell you that you're overqualified for this position because you're applying for a trainee position as a cook, and you've been a 5-star chef for 30 years. They are going to tell you that you're not qualified for this job position because you need a part-time 4-hour a day job, and they have 10-hour requirements for their construction crew, even though you've been in construction for 40 years. So you'll come to find that the manual labor work that you've been doing your entire life is no longer suitable for your physical condition, or the pay range that your experience demands. Even if you don't want that, you just want pennies on a dollar to get your foot in the door and just, not be suffering financially. The pay demand for your years of experience makes you overqualified for a job position, so they won't hire you. Likewise, just same way that men don't like dating women that are overly experienced because they don't want to change. Men and women alike, when we are older and we have a lot of experience in the field, you can't tell me how to do what I do. I've been doing this for so long. Men don't like to hear that, but bosses don't like to hear that either. So if you've been in this job for 40 years, the way you swing a hammer, you're not going to change that. The way you bust a table, you're not going to change that. The way you cook food, you're not going to change that. It doesn't matter what this company's recipes are. It doesn't matter what this company's processes are. I do it the way I do it because it is effective. Now, bosses aren't going to hire seasoned veterans because seasoned veterans do not change. The same way men do not date seasoned veterans because seasoned veterans do not change. This is why being rookies, ladies, beneficial. Now, without bold reforms like tying benefits to the real cost of living for seniors, so giving senior citizens living wage, not minimum wage or below minimum wage, building more affordable housing, and fixing unfair overpayment policies, Americans, elderly, and veterans could be left to navigate a future where only the lucky few can afford comfort and care. So while millions more are left behind in a patchwork of shelters, food banks, and uncertainty, the clock is ticking. If we don't act now, today's warning signs will become tomorrow's crisis. Now, speaking of tomorrow's crisis, about 21%, roughly 1 in 5 of all renter households in the United States, including at least one person receiving Social Security benefits, according to the most recent national data. So in 2018, this amounted to approximately 9.2 million renters households out of 43.7 million total renter households. Now, this share has grown over time from 17.8% in 2005 to 21.1% in 2018, reflecting both the aging population and the increasing reliance on fixed incomes among renters. Now, for veterans, the most recent study shows that about 1 in 3 of veteran renter households are cost burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on rent, and nearly half of disabled veteran renters are cost burdened. While there is no precise national figure for the total share of the rent markup made specifically of veterans on fixed incomes, veterans represent a significant and growing portion of renters facing affordability challenges, particularly those relying on disability or retirement benefits. Now, for people with disabilities, 4.1 million Americans age 18 to 64. Because remember, we grew up in a generation where everybody mama was trying to put everybody child on a crazy check. Age 18 to 64, whether they need it or not, you got 4.1 million Americans on supplemental security income. This is different from SSDI because SSDI is work credits. You have to put in at least 10 years of work and max out your work credits, and you get SSDI. This is SSI for people who either do not have enough work credits or who have never worked. And nearly all of them are renters or seeking rental housing. However, the average Social Security payment is only about $983 per month. Some people are seeing roughly around 1,075, 1,100, but it's on average close to $1,000 a month. While the average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment is $1,398, making market rate housing unaffordable without additional support. Because remember, the expectation for rent is that the party is supposed to be able to afford to make 3 times the income that the rent is required. Now, if you're getting Social Security disability, and I was just telling you guys about a $700 a month apartment, if all you're getting is $1,000 a month, that $700 is going to cover just the rent. Some people that are getting that $1,000 a month from SSI that are lucky to be veterans as well, getting another $1,000 or $1,100 from disability from the veterans benefits, can combine the two incomes together, where they're making a total of like $2,500 a month, where this $983 to $1,000 a month is 50% of their income. As we said before, most of them are utilizing almost half of their income, but at least they've got a roof over their heads and a little bit of money left over to do some other stuff. So again, that $600-700 a month apartment probably would make you a lot more money over time. Because I mean, you got a bunch of old people staying there. They not breaking up that much stuff. You got the young bucks having house parties and breaking stuff and everything like that. And if you contract them into property damage, where you encourage them to get property insurance, because if anything happens to this apartment, you will be billed for it, kind of thing. Even if they move out willfully, you can put a lien against their rental name in the courtroom for damages done to the last property, which will negatively impact them from renting out from a next property. But the fact of the matter is, when you're looking at incidentals, it's like, well, that's not covered on the lease. So while we will fix it, we will bill you for it. And that prevents you from dealing with unnecessary damages with your costs. So instead of allowing the tenants to have reasonable damage to the properties and then only charge them for damages that wasn't fixed after they moved out, or just not giving them their security deposit and having to spend $20,000 on renovating this unit, you could literally say, well, it's taking me $20,000 to renovate this unit. That's your responsibility, because outside of normal wear and tear, this hole, that over there, the carpet, this stuff is not covered. Basically, I said, unfortunately, in a low-income environment, they always invite 1 or 2 siblings that aren't on the contract. Right. Now, see, again, you can circumvent that as a property owner. You can have random inspections of the unit, quality control, to keep your properties up to par, head count requirements. Fact is, nobody exiting your apartment 2 weeks in a row are considered visitors. They're considered residents. So somebody can stay at your residence usually 3 days, maybe a week. After 2 weeks, they're considered an extra guest. If it is in your contract where they must register extra people onto your leasing scenario to prevent from being evicted, they will add those extra people to your thing. Now, a lot of times, though, this is the most interesting part. A lot of times people add extra people to the lease so that they can have a little bit of financial alleviation to the cost of the property. Is that all kinds of problems, including parking spaces? Yeah, you're going to have problems like parking spaces, because if there's supposed to be 1.5 cars per unit and everybody brings 2 cars, somebody's not going to have a place to park. But if you have 1 car per unit or 2 cars per unit, if you have 2 cars per unit style parking lot in an apartment complex, and then the extra parking is for guests, you could do reserve parking where tenants are supposed to have a decal for their cars, and any car that doesn't have a decal gets towed off of the property unless they're parking in visitor parking, where they subcontract tow companies to patrol the property at no cost, so that the tow company turns the profit off of snatching cars out the parking lot that don't have a decal on it. It only costs you an extra couple pennies per decal to issue decals that the tenants are going to put on their dashboard. That solves that problem. But again, if your apartment is that cheap, I was just telling you that apartments are like $1,300 a month for a 1-bedroom. If you've got a $700 a month 1-bedroom, then you're doing good. You got a $1,400 a month 2-bedroom or a $1,200 a month 2-bedroom, you're doing good. There got some places that have a 2-bedroom that's like $900 a month. And if you're able to run that, typically this is what you need to think about. The true value of the rental property before inflation is $1 per square foot. So if you're going to stick to that premise and say, well, based on the size of this unit, I'm only going to charge $1 per square foot, regardless of what inflation is doing. If you've got a 700 square foot apartment, you're only charging $700. It doesn't matter if it's a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom. You're only charging $700. So if one person wants to rent it, that's fine. If they come with their brother, sister, father, daughter, girlfriend, whatever, that's fine. If 2 of y'all should be able to afford $700. Regardless of the fact is that if your rent is that low, then you should have 100% capacity 100% of the time. Or I should say 90%, 95% of the time, you should be at 100% capacity. And if your rent is that low and you're charging a $75 application fee where it is per applicant. So if it's 2 people trying to rent the part, each person has to pay $75. You made $150 to move one person in, or one family in. And well, and you could be legit like $75 per adult. So if it's a 3-bedroom apartment and 3 adults are going to live there, or 6 people are going to live there because it's 3 couples that are going to live there, it doesn't matter. They're paying $75 a person. 6 people apply for the same apartment to move in. Each person's got a room. They're still going to pay the rent on time. You still made $900 for them to move in before they put the collective security deposit down. Not to mention all the other people that apply for units. So the fact is that you could turn a huge profit on the forefront and then maintain general standards of living for them for the rest of the time. Likewise, you could also, 1 out of every 5 houses that you rent out to people, you could deliberately go and grab a homeless person and put them into one of those establishments, and then notify HUD in Section 8 that you're housing a homeless person, and they may issue you a voucher for that person if that person is on the waiting list. Bayside said assisted low income Section 8 tenants works out good for seniors. It works out good for everybody who doesn't have to pay for rent, but it works out good for the landlord because it's guaranteed money. The only time that an individual does not get paid their benefits is if they're in that list of people that is going to have their benefits suspended until they pay back the overages. But the remainder of individuals that did not get on that list, those individuals are going to have consistent money coming in until they die. So unless you get put out for destroying the property or fighting with the neighbor, your money is coming in all the time. It's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. So it is up to you to decide what's the most fiscal thing for you to do to turn a decent profit out of this situation. So really what people are doing is they're looking at the cost of maintenance to maintain the property versus the cost of the rent, and they raise the rent so that they turn a profit after they pay for everything. And the profit margin that they're looking at is higher because of inflation. And that's one of the reasons why the rent keeps going up. My only concern with homeless or drug addicted people is that they have a high chance of burning down your apartment complex due to drug use. No, that's not exactly true. I know everybody has that fear, but you've got a lot of people that are just sleeping on the side of the road because they don't have anywhere else to go. I mean, there's a difference between the person that's sitting outside the Walmart holding a sign saying we'll do anything for food versus the person that's passed out underneath a tree with 13 beer bottles surrounding him, no shirt on, and a shirt being used as shorts. There's a difference between those types of people. You can literally look at a person that's like, yeah, he ain't got nothing going for him versus the other person like, damn, if this person had a place to go, he probably would get back on his feet. You got some people that are homeless right now, specifically because they can't get back to work because something bad happened to them and they lost their job, they lost their house, and all they need is a roof over their head, a clean shower, some clean clothes, and they'll take their ass back to work. So because people are so afraid of negativity, I told y'all before, I don't condone negativity. People are so afraid of negativity. They won't give an honest person a chance to do something good. And that's one of the reasons why the homeless population is so huge. So many people that'll annoy the crap out of you at a traffic light to wash your window for $2 so that they can get them something to eat at a Burger King or something like that. If that person is willing to wash your car windows at the traffic light for $2 or tap on your glass and sell you a bottle of water for $1.75, that person can live on your property for free, cut the grass, wash the windows, clean the gutters. Do you see what's going on here? You don't need a job. I'll give you one. You don't need a job. You live on my property and take care of the property, and you'll stay here rent free. Now I don't got to pay for a landscaper. I just save some money, and the unit that's not paying rent is a tax deduction. So I save money twice. We are just too greedy and selfish to think about, fuck, I could give somebody else an opportunity. You know? And if you had an apartment complex and two apartment complexes out of two units out of every apartment complex is you doing something for somebody else, that's a tax deduction. Not to mention, you could find a bunch of able-bodied homeless people and start up a company. All you need is a homeless electrician and a homeless plumber, and you've got a maintenance company. You don't need staff. Your staff live on the property. Now, instead of you making a special call to Roto-Rooter to come and take care of the situation, call Unit 24. They're going to come down and take care of it for you. That's it. That's it. You're able to do more just by doing for somebody else. Now, the other thing that you can do is if you're picking up a lot of individuals that have common skill sets, these people just don't have a way to get a job. What do you do with that? Staffing company. You create a business that subcontracts out skilled workers. You advertise it to companies that are looking for cheap labor. Now you've got homeless tenants that will go to your day labor place and work to pay rent where they were once living there for free. You just help somebody be reincorporated back into the community while creating jobs. All it takes is to not be selfish. It's not that hard to do. Don't nobody want to do it. People look down on homeless people, but homeless people weren't born homeless. Something happened to them that made them homeless. And it's not always drug use. Sometimes somebody made a bad choice because they was riding in the car with the wrong person, went to jail, and now their life is fucked. If you get a felony, you can't live nowhere for 5 years. So you're homeless for 5 years because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person. You didn't have to be the one that messed up. You just had to be with somebody who messed up, which is why I teach all about first person accountability. You also have individuals that have catastrophic failure, like car accidents, downsizing, COVID. You know, there's so many things. And then you're working for a company where they downsize like Amazon and replace a lot of people with machines. They replace 200,000 employees with machines. Them people ain't did nothing wrong, but if they ain't got no job and then they don't have an income, they can't live off their family, they're homeless. There's 156,000 new homeless people this year before we count the 200,000 unemployed individuals from the government. And they only give you unemployment compensation for 12 months. And then after that, you got to figure something out. So if you don't start up your own business or work for somebody else or side hustle some shit, you ain't got enough money to live. You got people who get injuries, car crashes. They've been accosted by somebody, and once they recover from that, their life is over. People that are a victim of fraud, identity theft, and their life is over. Then they have to start over. They got men that suffer from divorce. Not only do they suffer from divorce, they suffer from child support, because they got those women out there that'll take a man and put him in jail. And I say this, ladies, not because I'm going after y'all, but because look, women don't always get put in jail for child support, because more often than not, the man make more money than a woman, because a woman was usually at the house taking care of the kids. So this is just a statistical average. And some of these women are bitter, and because they're not getting the child support money they want, they'll put the man in jail until the man loses his job. They'll suspend his license until the man can't go to work. Then the man loses his job. Now the man ain't got no money. Now the man is homeless. Now, once he don't got to pay that child support no more, now he can take his ass back to work, but he smell bad. He don't got no clean clothes. He'd have been robbed 8 times. And now that you done fucked up his whole life, you satisfied. The child done gone to college now, and now the man still got to get back on his feet. Well, how the hell is he going to get back on his feet? Who the hell going to give him a hand? You'll give him $5 and see, go buy him a sandwich, but who the hell going to give him a hand? He don't need the $5 for the sandwich as much as he needs a clean shower and a warm bed. But don't nobody think about that. All we think about is them homeless people do drugs. Homeless people out there drunk. Nothing against you, Bayside. I'm just saying, there's a lot of people who tell me that. I'm afraid of what are the homeless people going to do? Well, think about the homeless people that's in your neighborhood parks, and your park is still clean. You only know that the homeless person is there because they pop up out the bushes. Think about the homeless people that are in the local alleyways near some of the stores that you shop at. You only know that they're there because they come from behind the alleyway. But the neighborhoods still look clean where they at. Them the homeless people that need a place to stay. Now, when you think about the homeless person that's got a tent back off in the woods somewhere, and that tent is surrounded by trash, yeah, that person's going to be a problem person. But if you're literally looking at a person that is so discreetly unnoticeable as a homeless person, where if you put that person in your house, they probably wouldn't know, nobody would know that person used to be homeless. One thing you got to recognize is that some people have a level of appreciation where they will take care of your stuff because you took care of them. There are people who will take advantage. But there are a lot more, I believe there are a lot more people that have goodwill in them, that if you give them a chance, that they will do more for you. Remember that the Carl will be up here talking about this, the Bible scriptures where they talk about that when you give to somebody that you're supposed to give back tenfold, it's the other way around. Because you gave to somebody, they want to give to you tenfold. So if you give somebody a place to stay, they're going to want to take care of your shit. Because they feel indebted to you, because if it not been for you, it would have been storming outside and they would have been wet like the Emperor's New Groove, just sitting there underneath a leaf getting rained on instead of being inside. And the fact is that instead of us thinking about what if they fuck me over, think about, well, what if people find out that I'm taking care of folks? People will donate money to that shit. Hey, this man's picking up homeless people off the street and giving them housing. I ain't got that much, but I slide you $20 to help this guy's rent money. Remember I told y'all before, anytime you do good deeds, you could do it through a charity. Anytime you do good deeds, you could do it through social media through a charity. Anytime people see you do good deeds, they can donate money to your charity through the social media. Then you could take those good deeds and do it for somebody else. Didn't I tell you that if you did those good deeds and then you send a receipt to the U.S. government, they'll do a fiscal reimbursement grant where they send you money for all the money you spent, which gives you more money to do it again. So you could get paid. You could make a career. Didn't I talk to you guys about this before, where I said, hey, you know what? The people who are doing this 40 hours a week could actually get 5% of the money that's being given to the nonprofit for doing nice things for homeless people, for doing nice things for less fortunate people, for taking care of their community. The only reason why we don't have a large quantity of nonprofits that are community-based nonprofits that are dedicated to improving at-risk communities, at-risk families, homeless environments, is because everybody's selfish. Nobody wants to put in the effort to build up the type of nonprofit that will be recognized publicly as a type of entity that takes people off of the street. Nobody wants to build a company that is solely designed to make a 1% profit margin by demand and spend the rest of the money expanding so that it could do more service for the people than line the pockets of the CEOs. If you had a company that's sole designed to make 1% of profit, 1% of profit, you're getting what? $1,000 out of every $1 million that your company brings in as profit? Or is that $10,000 out of every $1 million that your company brings in as profit? That's a lot of overhead. That's like $990,000 going back into the business for every $1 million that your company makes. That type of mentality means that all the employees are getting paid, the operation is getting paid, but your standard of living is covered outside of this, so it don't really matter. But the company itself would have a better reputation than most companies that we don't know about most of these places. We don't hear about most of these places. If you had the type of development where if your tenants ain't getting along, instead of you just throwing your tenant out on the street, it's like, hey, I got another place over here that you can rent instead. I'll even call some movers and help you move your stuff. That way you ain't got to be homeless, but you can't stay here. Not one landlord has ever done that for a tenant. Say, hey, it ain't working for you where you at right now, but I don't want to see you go undone. So I will put you somewhere else that's still convenient to your current environment. I got to tell y'all something. If more people did more stuff for more people, we would have less misery in this country. Now, this is the kicker, because I know the title of the show is talking about Gen Zs. So we just talk about all the old folks. Gen Zs, they're entering adulthood with unprecedented financial hurdles. And this is one of the reasons why I be talking to y'all about investing into things so that we can start making money, make money for us before it is too late. The average Gen Z student loan debt is $14,315, and collectively those under 25 already owe $104.5 billion in federal student loans, which is why the U.S. government is not giving out as many of them as they used to. That's why they cut off the second tier. You can't use government loans to go get your master's degree no more. You can get it to your bachelor's degree, and that's about the size of it. But that's why I told you, boys, if y'all go take them student loans, put it into a high interest account, and then when you finish college, you get them back their money. That way you still got your money, they got their money, and everybody's satisfied. I told y'all that. Now you see what I'm talking about. But that's just the beginning. Gen Zs are now carrying the highest average personal debt in America at $94,101, far surpassing the millennials, those Y2Jers, at $59,181, and us Gen Xers at $53,255. With the median home price at $410,000 right now, and rent being up 2.4% year over year in early 2025, affordable housing is increasingly out of reach for these young adults. Despite these pressures, Gen Zs are trying to save. 88% of Gen Z eligible workers are contributing to retirement plans, but their average 401k balance is just $13,500, and their IRA balances are $6,672. You got to understand, I just finished telling you guys this whole plan, and go back and watch some of the investment episodes that I've been giving you guys every Tuesday since January, and you will see a whole plan where you will be seeing a decent quantity of money. These kids, their average savings rate is 5.9%, which is well below the 15% experts recommend for secure retirements. Now, didn't I just finish telling you guys last week and the week after that, or the week before that, about a handful of different investment opportunities that's paying you between 16 and 22% interest? Why are these little kids out here investing in Roth IRAs and 401ks at 5.9% when they could be here on this and that, finding ways to invest in 18% interest, compounded monthly dividend distributions where they don't have to wait until they retire to pull their money out. They can start getting money off of their stuff right now. Why does nobody know about the common knowledge that I be telling you guys on the show on a regular basis? It makes no sense to me. Now, Gen Zs is also spending nearly twice as much as they save, squeezed by raising living costs and stagnant entry-level wages. Now, the funny thing about this is one of the reasons why I told you guys about the dividend distribution. Because if you're putting your money into cash stocks and it's giving you cash now, you are less likely to pull your principal out to take care of bullshit. You put your cash stocks away, you put your principal away. That's why I keep telling y'all can go have fun. Y'all can live life, but live life off the interest of your investment. Take your primary paycheck, put it into your stock option, take the money from your stock option, pay your bills, and whatever's left over, go have you a good ass time. But don't take your principal paycheck and go have you a good ass time and take the change from your club and go put it into the stock option because your ass gonna stay broke. You heard what the old folk is going through right now. Old folk getting $1,000 a month to live off of when the cost of living is $1,500 almost. They need a whole full-time job just to cover half the rent. They got privatized Medicare out there right now where in order for you to get good health insurance, somebody is paying somebody $750 a month or $750 a year for your insurance so that you can get Medicaid, Medicare, all this other stuff, the Plan B and all this other stuff that they got going on with the healthcare system. All that is happening because the old folks got to pay. They got to pay out of pocket. It ain't nothing free no more. And since ain't nothing free no more, ain't nothing cheap no more. You know, we in a position where if we ain't making that money, we gonna be broke. Now, financial literacy is also a growing concern, which is another why we have this podcast, because only 25% of Gen Zs ages 18 to 29, and our podcast is actually between 25 and 45. It's about 57% of us on here. Those Gen Zers say that they are very financially literate. 25%. That's a huge drop of 4% of points from 2 years ago, and 18% now admit to being not at all literate, a 50% increase since 2023. So more young folks don't know nothing about financial literacy. Everybody's screaming about financial independence, but they don't know how to save and invest a dollar. They don't know about budget spending. And that's one of the reasons why they stay broke. Living for inflation. They're living to work, and they're working to pay for inflation. And inflation only continues to rise because they live to work to pay for inflation. If they live and they work to live and don't condone inflation, a product is only as valuable as people are willing to pay for it. Once the consumer says that's too expensive, the seller has to reduce the price. I ain't buying that car. It's too expensive. Eventually that car will get sold. When it gets sold, it's going to be sold for far less than what it was when you first looked at it because it was too damn expensive. You have houses up for sale on real estate, 300, 500 days up for sale. They stay up for sale until somebody buys them. But those houses, they reduce the price and keep reducing the price and keep reducing the price until somebody buys it. So it's only as valuable as what somebody's willing to pay for it. And if ain't nobody willing to pay for it, it ain't worth shit. So the only reason why they can charge you $350 for a pair of Jordans is because somebody's willing to pay $600 for it. That's why. Otherwise, Jordans would be the same price as Nikes and fucking Reeboks and FUBU. But the reason it's a Michael Jordan shoe. It's got the little shadow of the dude going to do the slam dunk. So I'm going to pay $150 more for this fucking shoe than the exact same Nike shoe that doesn't have the guy on it. Isn't that funny? Because anybody who knows anything is that Jordans are made by fucking Nike. So why are you spending an extra $150 for a pair of Nikes with a Jordan shadow on it? Branding. Now, this gap makes it harder to navigate complex retirement options like 401ks and IRAs, which I would just tell y'all guys to give up on that shit, because 5.9%, bro. The lowest stock option that I told you, I gave y'all a list of them just the other day. All of them right now are 16% or higher dividend distributions. All of them. I just looked at them earlier today. So unless they change right after I started the show, all of them are 15% or more dividend distributions. I don't pick up a stock option that's not putting out 15% or more dividend distribution. And this is like, I got quarterlies and I got monthlies. And the difference between the quarterlies and the monthlies is going to determine whether or not I invest in the quarterlies first or I invest in the monthlies first, because it depends on the ex-dividend date and which month out of the year I'm in. If I'm in month 2 of a quarterly, then I'm going to invest in a monthly. But if I'm in month 3 of a quarterly, I'm going to invest in a quarterly. If I'm in month 1 of a quarterly, I'm going to invest in a monthly. I take the larger investments and put them into the smaller investments and try to balance the table. But the kids don't know nothing about it. So everybody who got a young, that's one of the reasons why I tell y'all that to watch the comment section, because we got some young bucks that will come through here, and some of them want to learn something, and I want to teach it to them, because if y'all know how to take y'all student loan money at 4 to 8% interest and put it where I'm telling you to put it at 15 to 22% interest, by the time you get out of college, payment deferred until 6 months after you graduate from college, it don't matter what your first payment is going to be, because that money been sitting there, money making money. If you just keep putting it back and never touch it until you get out of college, when you do get out of college, all that extra money, shit, you ain't got no problem with paying them back. You ain't got no problem with paying back. So all the money that you don't need for your college education, you put it up into these stock options, and think about the cost of doing business, because if they're charging you 4 to 8% and you're making almost 22%, aren't you making like almost 14% more interest off of the money that they loaned you? So when you go to pay them back, you making a profit. You can pay them back 100% of the money that you borrowed from them and keep the difference. Or you can do what I would do, which is just make the payments. Just make the payments from the stock option. Just make the payments from the stock option. If you want to pay on the thing, pay higher on it because you got it. Instead of paying the minimum, you can make your own payments. Instead of them asking you for $200 a month, you can send them $500 a month because you got it. Put more towards the principal. Pay that bad boy down faster. Then when it's paid off, every time you pay them, it's a tax write-off. But once it's paid off, your credits go through the roof. But you kept the principal. So if you raised $100,000 worth of student debt and you was able to invest $70,000 of that student debt, you still got $70,000 after you got out of school. But if you make a 15% interest off of that, you're making $1,500 off of every $10,000 that you got in a stock option. Now multiply that times 7. That's almost $9,000 a year that it's giving you, if not a month, if you're doing compounded monthly dividend distributions, where you would still be able to take that money and give it back to the school and keep the difference. So once you finish paying off your student loans, you retire from working. Now, while these guys are navigating these complex 401ks and IRAs, even though 62% of Gen Z's savers maximize employer matches when available, Gen Z's approach to money is also changing the landscape, because 35% are entrepreneurial, launching side hustles. I've been telling y'all about getting these side hustles or freelancing gigs, and 17% own cryptocurrency, which those are going to be the ones that are going to be less broke more often. Social media is being a double-edged sword where 60% are learning investment tips from platforms like this and that podcast and TikTok, but 5% of them are falling for financial scams each year. So if they were spending more time over here than over there on TikTok, because remember, I told y'all, I was talking to Jordan. Jordan be doing 30-second skits on TikTok. I said, hey, Jordan Barnes, come over and come and run 1 hour with me. Let's with him doing 3-minute skits or 1 to 3 minute skits about where to put his money, he would have to literally do 40 skits, bring them to this show, and sit here for an hour. I'm sitting over here every day of the week. He's doing a couple minutes a day. I'm here every day of the week. Like, bro, if you really want to make you some investment opportunities, let's really talk about some investment opportunities. Let's collaborate on some investment opportunities. You feel me? When I touch back base with him and be like, what you doing? Oh yeah, I remember. I've been busy. I know. I've seen a lot of your videos. Don't think I'm a fan. I respect you, gangster. I respect the fact that the day that I was talking about helping homies get some extra money, you was talking about some extra side hustles that I didn't think about, and I had a lot of respect for that. But I can damn sure tell you, if you're really trying to be a financial influencer, you should put more effort into showing some folks how to make and save and invest money. These 30-second reels, ain't nobody learning that much investment opportunities off of 30-second reels. Sit here for 3 hours talking about how to create a trust so that you can keep your money from being stolen from your ex. Let's sit here for a little bit and talk about ways where we could put our money in places where we ain't got no student debt when we get out of college. Let's talk about how y'all could have took y'all college tuition. For some of y'all Gen Zs that got kids, y'all done gone to college, y'all get out of college, and instead of you just giving all your money back to the U.S. government for them student loans, you could do two things. You could put some of that money on your college, then you could take the rest of your money and put that money on your kids' education so that your kids get better education. I was just talking to a man just the other day where his kids was going to private school and they did not learn what they were supposed to learn in private school. Now I got to show them what they should have learned from a public school. I'm sitting over here like, man, you wasted your money. You could have put your money in a public school and got a tax deduction off of that. Well, if every parent put their money into a public school instead of everybody chasing the prestige of a private school, the public school would have the capital to produce the same quality, if not better, than a public school, because every parent of a private school pays for the private school, but every parent of a public school gets a tax deduction for paying for the same private school style education, plus whatever the U.S. government get a school, because the U.S. government ain't giving private schools no money. Private schools make their profit per student, per head. Public schools, that's additional capital. So do you know that if we wasn't so damn cheap, if we wasn't so damn stingy, he says skits equal smoke. He don't want no smoke. But did you know that if we wasn't so damn stingy, that with the budget that the U.S. government currently gives to public schools, we could make public schools better than private schools? I'm a product of public schools. I went to public school. I went to a public college before I went to a 4-year institution. And you can honestly say that I'm probably one of the more educated podcasters you've seen on this platform. and look, I'm going to give you one more. Not only am I a product of public school, public college, I'm also a dropout. So I dropped out, went back to school 10 years later, went and got my high school diploma, associate's degree, 3 bachelor's degrees, and then started doing this podcast. So I did everything that the average person that would be considered a failure would do. And I am still sitting here successful. And I didn't go to a private school. So I don't understand. I don't understand. He said, don't downplay it. You got 3 degrees. You're higher educated, most definitely. But I got 3 degrees because I tried, not because I went to private school. I got 3 degrees because I tried. I got 3 degrees because I didn't give up. A lot of people, even if they got money in their family, give up and they don't succeed because they quit early. I know people who small time podcasters, they don't have a lot of fans. They would quit early. You got a lot of people who don't have the effort to start up a small business because they quit early. The first 4 years of a startup is the hardest. A business has to survive the first 2 years. Otherwise, it ain't going nowhere. And if you don't quit, that's how you become successful. Entrepreneurs because they don't quit. They're always looking for another opportunity. They can't make the sale today, but they're going to try to make a sale tomorrow. They can't, and I appreciate that. He said facts, much respect. They can't always depend on somebody else. They have to look for another way. There are ways that you can make money for yourself. There are ways that you can balance the budget in a more beneficial fashion, but that requires you to look at what you got coming in and make changes. That they tell you the truth. You can go in with bad credit, go in and get money from a private lender, but that requires you to have a good payment history. If you've got a bad payment history and bad credit, you can't borrow no money from nobody. If you've got good credit and a bad payment history, you might be able to borrow some money from somebody. You might have to put a lot of money down or put up a little bit of collateral, but if you don't have collateral, you still can't rent nothing from nobody. They don't tell you all the ins and outs. I tell you all the ins and outs. And the fact is that the only reason why I'm on the path that I'm on right now was because the money that I needed for the opportunity I wanted to do required me to do something else, which required me to do something else, which required me to do something else, which led me here. And I'm like, you know what? I can do this. This will get me the opportunity I need to do the other thing, which will get me the opportunity to do the other thing, which will get me the opportunity to do the first thing, where I can say, while it might have took me a long time, I started my mission in 2017. It is 2025. It might be 2027 before I can start doing what I said I was going to do from 2017. But the fact is, I didn't stop. My homeboy told me last year, he told me at the beginning of last year, 2024, that he wanted to be a millionaire by this year. Well, how the fuck are you going to get there if you keep quitting? How are you going to get there? Yeah, I can't help you become a millionaire in 12 months, because if that was a thing, everybody'd be a fucking millionaire. But I definitely can make sure that within 2 to 5 years, we can make ourselves millionaires. But it requires us to continue to try. We have to take in a lot of those opportunities that other people pass up, like the 65 houses per 100 people of low-income housing that could turn you a shit ton of money, where then you could mortgage the equity off of those properties and fly over to Japan and buy real estate over there and use that as a tax deduction in America. Start up a real estate business over there in Japan and hire 2 Japanese people to run it. And Japan will give you $23,000. That $23,000 can be their salary. What do you think they're going to be doing? One could be managing your properties. The other one could be helping you find more properties to buy and invest in. You can make money nationwide, or you can make money worldwide. All it depends on is your drive and your capabilities to get it done. They say you have to take risks too, bro. You gotta spend money to make money, and that's always a guarantee. No startup has $0 investment, because even something as simple as becoming an Uber driver, in order for you to become an Uber driver, you have to have a car. If you didn't already buy a car, you have to rent a car. If you don't have the money to rent a car, how are you going to become an Uber driver? Some of the easiest side hustles requires you to have something first. You've got to spend money somewhere. You could do something as simple as doing surveys, but in order for you to do surveys, what do you need? You need a computer or a laptop or a cell phone or something, right? Now, if you don't already own one, you got to borrow one if you can't rent one. So if you don't have access to one, you can't do surveys. There's the easiest things in the world that you can do to make money. And the homeless people, in order for them to have the little cloth in their hand and the Windex in order to wipe your windows down, they needed money from somewhere to buy the cloth and the spray bottle to wash your car, so that they could ask you for some money after they wash your car. You got to spend money to make money. Everything is a risk in life. The biggest risk is not doing nothing, because you are risking absolute failure because you don't have the drive to succeed. The biggest risk is absolutely nothing. We can go off of that Bible verse where the Lord gave the 3 people a coin. One person invested and lost, and one person invested and gained something. One person buried it in the sand, came back, and the Lord was disappointed in the one who buried his opportunity in the sand and did nothing with it. Why? Because you don't know what you could have become had you tried. Everybody else know what they are, because you either tried and failed and learned something, or you tried and succeeded. You learn more from failure than what you do from success, but you still learn something from succeeding. You don't learn nothing from not trying. Oh, I don't think I'll ever be successful, so I'm not going to try to be successful. Then guess what? You're not going to be successful. But if you never quit trying, you might say, well, I never thought that I would have become this successful, but I am glad that I kept trying for this long. It is a completely different atmosphere. It's a completely different mentality. You do have to take a lot of risks, but a lot of the times there's high risk and there is low risk. The high risk is when you're taking your savings and investing in what is supposed to be a surefire thing that doesn't do anything for you. Low risk is when you're putting your money up onto an ETF that's giving you money back on a regular basis, where the only way you would lose all of your money is if that company that's been here for 25 years goes bankrupt. That's like saying investing in CDs from Wells Fargo is going to cause you to lose all of your money. It's not going to happen. Wells Fargo's not going anywhere. Wells Fargo is freaking selling the U.S. Post Office. If Wells Fargo is selling the government post office box to be a private entity, the bank is selling shares from a government entity to make it a private entity. If you invested in that bank, how do you think your money is going to go? That's the difference between low risk and high risk. Your homeboy tell you, man, I got this surefire deal with this OnlyFans chick. That's high risk. But I mean, investing in Capital One stock, not that high of a risk. It just depends on the dollar for dollar value versus the dividend distributions, because all stocks and shares go up and down. It just depends on, can you afford them? And is the price increase worth your individual time? That is your risk assessment. The quantity of money that you have to put out versus the amount of money that you come back, the rate of return, or the ROI, the return on investment. You want to be able to look at what you got to put up, how long it's got to stay there, how much you're going to get back, and is that worth your time, your effort, and can you afford to wait that timeline? If the answer to any of those questions is no, then don't do it. But as I told you before, if you're able to readjust your budget, readjust your spending habits, and you can find yourself not needing a couple $1,000s here and there, and you can start putting that money up in places where it's make money for you while you don't need that money. If you think about all the other times that you wasted money in your life, if you would have been investing it instead, you wouldn't be broke today. These Gen Zs, if they was to come to this podcast and we start really getting in on this money situation and really start moving money around and investing in stocks and bonds and everything else, and starting up businesses, and because if you got all this capital gain, guess what you can do with that capital gain? You can start up any kind of business you want, and because you got money to back you. Then with your good credit and your money, you can SBA loan and use the SBA loan to either run the business or invest the SBA loan into high interest stock situations where some SBA loans are less than 14% interest. And again, if you're making 16 to 22%, you paying off the SBA loan from the stock option. You just have to have the payment date for the SBA loan to be after the cash deposits into your bank account from the dividend distribution every month. It's a no-lose scenario. And once the SBA loan is paid off, you got 50 grand in the bank. So between the $100,000 from your college education and the 50 grand from the SBA loan, you just found a way to stack up $150,000 that you personally don't have to give back because the interest from that stock option is paying for itself. The profit from the money you borrowed is paying for itself. I did a whole show about how you can leverage borrowing money to make a profit, the same way you can leverage lending money to make a profit. And I don't understand why people are struggling when you don't even need to use your money to make money. All you got to do is spend the money wisely. Xander, I met a man who was locked up for 11 years and owns an excavating company, and now he's a multi-millionaire. All it takes is all it takes is to keep trying, bro. Point is, it's all a mindset. Some people are afraid of making money. It's not that they're afraid of making money specifically. It's afraid of being successful. Because some people don't believe that they will be able to maintain that success. Nobody's afraid to make a buck. They're afraid to lose a buck. They're not afraid to make a buck. They're afraid of achieving something that they cannot sustain. A championship spelling bee might lose on purpose because eventually he's not going to know how to spell a word. Championship chess player might lose on purpose because eventually somebody's going to be better than him. At least if I lose now, I know myself I could have beat him. But now I don't have to try. Sometimes a championship racer might come in second place on purpose because it is harder to stay on top than it is to be second place or third place or in the top 5. But as they always say, second place is the first loser. Fact is that you don't have to try as hard. The only time you want to be number 2 at anything in life is when you're the second car in a drag race because they're going to pull over the first car. That's the only time. That's the only time. Every other time, you want to be number 1. You want to be besides being the second car in a drag race, the only other time you want to be number 2 is when you're the second car in a high-speed chase. That's the only time because you're the one doing the chasing. You never want to be number 1 there. You don't want to be the one in the front of the pack because that person is not surviving that. You know, everything else in life, you want to be the best in the world at what you do. I know Chris Jericho used to say this back in the day, and he stopped saying it. And I've been saying it ever since because I'm that damn good. But the fact is, I could have dropped my music on that. But the fact is, if you are the best in the world at what you do, nobody can do you better than you. They can do it similar, can't do it better. So it is your goal to find out what you do best. And then it is your responsibility to beat your own expectations. It ain't about what society thinks about you. It's about what you think about you. So the only thing that's holding you back in your life right now is not your government. It's not your society. It's not your neighborhood. It's not the neighbor lady. It's not the Karen that's giving you bad time every week. It's you. Because the only reason why you're not trying harder to be better is because you don't think that you could be any better than this. You lost when you thought you lost, not when you actually lost. You lost when you stopped believing in yourself. So if you never stop believing in yourself, if you always keep looking for another way, you will find another way. And that other way is not going to be easy. You're not looking for an easy way out. You're looking for a different opportunity. Instead of climbing the cliff, you might have to trench through the jungle. Doesn't mean that the chances of survival are going to change. It just means that you have another way. Some people do this I can't behavior. I can't. It's not that you can't. You're just too damn lazy, trifling, and stubborn to do. If you couldn't, it would not be capable of being done. There's nothing in this world that you cannot do. There are things that you are not allowed to do by people who have more authority in your situation than you do. But what you can do is whatever an authority over your situation does not stop you from doing. Take, for example, it's not appropriate to do, but if you stay on a multi-story apartment complex, you could pee over the balcony every day. Only thing that's going to stop you from doing that is the landlord. People will say you can't do that. No, you can. You're just not supposed to. You shouldn't. It's ill-advised. But you physically could if you wanted to. You could take a leak out your bedroom window right now. There's nothing stopping you from doing that besides your moral and ethical compass that is telling you that you shouldn't do that. And that's the difference between our constitutional freedoms. It doesn't matter whether or not you can do it. What matters is whether or not you should do it. Because we get Second Amendment strong and walk into Chipotle with some AR-15 and rocket launchers, and that's not going to mean that we should do that. It's our Second Amendment right to do it, but should we do that? Do you really need an AR-15 in a Chipotle, bro? Like, you don't have enough swing space for that. You do better with a Glock 19. Since that's all these kids know about is the Glock. Ironically, the 9mm Smith & Wesson has actually been determined the most durable firearm for concealed carry. And Glocks have been determined as more defective, but these kids know about Glocks. It's okay. They all look the same to the young bucks. Until that switch jam on them and they can't reload. Bayside said, believe in ourselves to create a higher frequency. Oh, yeah. In order for you to reach a higher ground, you're going to have to think higher of yourself. And in order for you to pull someone else up, you have to do what? You have to elevate yourself. In order for you to be at a level above others, for you to pull others up to your level, you have to have the ability to climb higher than everyone around you. You cannot be the one that people depend on if you are not the most successful one in your network. However, you cannot be the best you can be if you are the most successful person in your network. Because just like Vegeta, he would have never gotten stronger if he wasn't competing with Goku. Had he never met Goku, he would have stopped where he was. But because he met someone better than him, he kept growing to compete against somebody else that was better than him the entire time. He never caught up. Remember when they was doing a fusion? Goku had to lower his power level to match with Vegeta's max power level. Vegeta never caught up with Goku, but he never stopped trying. Yes, y'all, I did a Dragon Ball Z reference. The bottom line is Gen Zs face a retirement landscape that is defined by high debt, rising costs, and a knowledge gap around financial planning. But there is hope, because those who are starting early, if you diversify your investments, come to the show and see what we got going on, take advantage of employer matches if you want to, find ways to invest in better opportunities in what's being offered by the job, look for alternative measures. The key is to be proactive and adaptable and informed. Ladies, know what a Bitcoin is before you take the $100 over the Bitcoin. If you don't know what it is, ask somebody, because there is nothing worse than looking stupid. You might feel stupid and ask a smart question to get information, but you would damn sure look stupid if you pretend like you know it all when you really don't. Be honest and say, I don't know what that is. What is it? Then somebody can tell you what it is, so that you can say, oh, well, in that case, this Bitcoin is worth $90,000. I'll take the Bitcoin over the $100. You cannot make a fiscally responsible decision if you don't know the dynamics of the decision that you're about to make. And it has nothing to do with just the dollar over the Bitcoin. It's whether or not I should buy this car. It's whether or not I should put this type of gas in my car versus the other type of gas in my car. Whether or not how much air you're going to have in your tires. Whether or not I'm going to drive down a street that's charging tolls, because in New York, they got certain streets in New York that have a high traffic volume tax where they're going to charge you an increased fare to drive down certain streets during congested traffic days. It's fiscally more responsible to take a different route. The difference between driving on a service road, especially in New York, because why am I going to spend extra money to be gridlocked in traffic? I'm trying to go around the congestion in the first place. But now that they're taxing me to sit in line and wait for the traffic to break, bump that, bro. I'm gonna park the car down the street and get on my bicycle and ride through there. I'm gonna have to get me like a little moped or something, get me a little electric scooter or something like that, and put it on the back of my car. And then when I get to that area where times is tough, I need to park my car and get on my bike and ride the rest of the way. Bump all that bull, paying extra money so that I can get through this street right here when I could have went 13 blocks around and not had to pay that money. People don't think about that. They pay for convenience instead of investing in their own success. People are willing to be lazy and lay in the bed all day and do absolutely nothing. Every breath that they waste on just laying there doing nothing, when they could have been productive with every day of their life. You should be able to find 4 hours a day, 4 to 8 hours a day, to be in an upright position, whether you got to go to work or not. You should be in an upright position trying to find something to do in your life. If you can't do nothing, organize some shit around your house, clean up some stuff, go to the gym, meet some neighbors, network, socialize, try to find a way to do something in your life. Make purpose in your life, no matter how old you are, no matter what your physical condition is. Y'all know we used to grow up, we had them old folks that used to sit on the step and talk to folks as they pass by. They talked to so many folks over the years that the whole neighborhood knew who the oldest folks was in the crowd, because of the old folks will always be on the step when you pass by. First thing in the morning, middle of the day at lunch, last thing in the afternoon before the sun went down. Because the old folk, they ain't had nothing else to do but sit out on the porch and give you a good day. How you doing, baby? It's good to see you. Y'all remember them? Oh, how you kinfolk doing? Oh, it's good to see you again. Congratulations on that. Hey, when your neighborhood, old school, they ain't got nothing else to do but come outside and talk to the new school. Then the old school, if they ain't got nothing else to do outside of greeting you, they see y'all out there in the street acting a fool. Now let me come in, let me come talk to y'all and educate you on how you need to do better and be better, so that you ain't got to live like this for the rest of your life. But find purpose, especially men. Find purpose. Because really and truly, Alzheimer's and dementia sets in a whole lot faster when you don't have something to do. Your health degenerates faster when you don't have something to do. Your muscle memory, your body remembers that your muscles aren't needed. Your muscles are not going to regenerate as much. Think about it now. you are healthier, you live longer, you're happier, you're more motivated, you have more purpose and meaning in your life if you apply yourself to something. And if all you're going to do every day is figure out what the fuck that is what you should be doing every day. Find your mark in life and make it. And don't just make a small mark, make a splash. You want to make sure that when you're done, that there are so many people saying something for Christ's sakes positive about you. Not because that's just what people say, but because genuinely, I could show you a picture, I could show you a video, I could bring you a witness of what so-and-so, who that person like. I could bring you some character witnesses, some folks that'll tell you, nah, that person right there, that person's a saint. If you make that your mission in life, I promise you, you got plenty to do. You want to reach saint status. You want people to really, really value who you are. You're going to have to make a lot of impacts on a lot of people in a positive way. But that requires you to try. So if you're Gen Zs, the best time for you guys to start planning for retirement is right now, because y'all need that 20-year investment plan to make mistakes and get messy and, you know, like Magic School Bus. But because the data that is showing is only going to give you guys the understanding that waiting will make the challenges even more greater. The fact is that you guys, exactly, mic drop. The fact that you guys are only going to have a harder way to go, because as y'all see, disability is not helping nobody. Social Security is not helping nobody. They're offering $1,000 a month. You got folks that's working 40-hour-a-week jobs that's making $1,500 a month on some of the lowest paying jobs. You're telling me that disability is going to give you about 60% of the average hardworking person. That makes no damn sense. That makes no damn sense. He said, person turquoise riding headphones. I know that was supposed to be an emoji. It didn't pop up this way like So ask yourselves every day when you get out of bed, ask yourselves every afternoon before you go to bed, how are you preparing for your future? And then when you figure that shit out, I want you guys to come to the podcast. I want you to share your thoughts. I want you to come in and check in with me every day, every week, and come and take some of the looks of the building financial literacy talks that we'll be having. And I want you guys to take control of your retirement, because in order for you to prepare for your retirement, you have to start investing right now and build yourself financial wealth. As I keep telling you guys on a regular basis, in order for you to reach that level to stop, you have to ask yourself, what is a satisfactory standard of living that you want to have? Then you got to ask yourself how much money per month you got to get paid to live that standard of living. Then you got to ask yourself, at what percentage rate does it require for you to live that type of lifestyle? 10%, 20%. And then you have to find out what is the share price of the stock that's going to produce that type of result. And that is where you put your money. So if you're trying to live 15 to 20%, and isn't it funny though? Like, this podcast has been around a little under 2 years, and statistics show that experts are putting positive investment opportunities in 15%, and I'm giving you 22. I just literally said, here, out the wazoo. I think over the past 3 months, I gave y'all like 30 different shares that are anywhere between 8 and 20%, but I gave you 7 or 9 of them that were monthly or quarterly distribution shares that is guaranteedly 16 to 22% right now in the current depression. And experts, people you pay per transaction, are averaging 15%, and I'm averaging 22 to 23. I don't know what to tell y'all, because I'm no expert, but I damn sure know how to count my money. I've played enough mass multiplayer role playing games to check on the stats, to do damage distribution, to compare attack power versus HP power. I could compare stock option prices to dividend distributions. I could compare monthly versus quarterly. Yeah, you might think 45 cents a share is a lot of money until you realize that you're getting that once every 3 months versus 12 cents a share. Where you're going to end up with 36 cents a share for one share versus 45 cents a share for the other share. But if the other share is $14 a share and the $36 over 6 months is $6 a share, guess what? You can buy 2 shares. So if you're buying 2 shares at 36 cents a share and you got 2 shares, you're making 72 cents a share in 3 months instead of making 45 cents a share in 3 months. Now ask yourself, how much extra money did I just make by doing the dang math? Oh man. Now, I'm no expert, but if you take mathematics and you start applying it to stock options, all you got to do is just make sure that you don't buy high and sell low. You can make yourself some money just by counting. So for them folks that don't know how to count besides using their fingers and toes, y'all better whip out some dang on calculators and figure this stuff out, because we got fintech out here, but there's always a way. Even the dumbest person can be a billionaire, because all you need is enough money to pay somebody smarter than you to do the stuff for you that you don't want to do. But in order for you to pay somebody smarter than you got to make enough money to afford them. But everybody's got their price. It just depends on how much you got to pay. That's what the $1 Million Man used to say back in the WWF. And these are all true statements. We don't think about this, but this is all true statements. And a lot of y'all that came in, I really appreciate y'all sticking around. Special shout out to those of you that's on Twitter, Twitter X, because if y'all wouldn't have seen this podcast in passing, y'all would have never knew that I was in existence. The most underrated podcast on YouTube, now streaming on Twitter and Twitch. And probably you're going to get a lot more out of me on a daily basis than what you're going to get out of most channels. I can almost guarantee it. You guys need to make sure that you like and subscribe. Make sure that you hit that follow button on Twitter. Make sure that you hit that follow button on Twitch, because I mean, what we're going to be talking about tomorrow is investment opportunities. We're going to be fine. And one thing that you got to understand is that I can bring you updates on investment opportunities that I've already invested in and told you guys that you should invest in. But I'm not going to bring you the same investment opportunity every week. And Bayside, I tell you, I have talked to you guys about something different. Put your money in different locations every single week. So if you didn't like the first 25 I gave you, that's okay. I got 25 more. If you didn't want to do precious minerals, I did precious metals. So we had minerals, we had metals, we had rare earth minerals. There's plenty of things that we talk about. I talk about a different country that you can invest in. We just talked about Ukraine just last Wednesday. We talk about a different country that you can invest in. We talk about different countries that you can live in at a fraction of the price of living in America while still making American profits from America, where those countries don't tax you from offshore profits. So if you move to their country and make money from a different country, they don't even tax you on the profits that you make. So you could just wire transfer money to that country and you're only going to get taxed from the US on anything that you claim in the US. Not saying don't, because it is technically voluntary, but you are supposed to warn them, because really it's a confirmation system. Because if somebody else is saying, oh, hey, I'm giving X, Y, and Z on a Schedule K on a regular basis, the IRS is going to call you up and be like, man, when's the last time you confirmed this? That's it. That's really what it is. But if you're making your money in so many different places, ain't nobody saying nothing, you technically ain't got to say nothing. But I encourage you, because I'm supposed to make sure that we stick to abiding by the laws. I'm going to encourage you, make sure that you say something. But when you say something, you spend enough money to write off on your taxes that you can say, hey, yeah, I did make an X number of dollars, but guess what? It's all tax deductible. So reporting it ain't no problem, because why? They not going to take none of it. If anything, they might give you something back. The whole purpose behind this is to find ways to make money for you. Billionaires don't run from taxes. Billionaires don't run from debt. They use debt to their favor. They use debt to not have to pay taxes. They only spend money when it is a tax deduction primarily. And they invest most of their money, which is also a tax deduction, because when it's money going into something, it's considered a loss. It's the profits that come out. That's the capital gain. So if you start learning how to move your money in the right spot, where Q4, October, November, December, that's when you're making all of your profits disappear, so that at the end of the fiscal year, you don't have any profits. Then in Q1, you can cash out on all of this stuff and start spending money and living life and not having to stress. Some of the things that big businesses do is in Q4, they buy all the materials that they need for the upcoming year. So for those of y'all that got a bunch of kids, you buy 2 years worth of school supplies in December. There's a tax deduction on some of that stuff. You know, you buy office supplies, printers, paper, all the stuff that you need to succeed anyway. Buy it in bulk right now in Q4. And then in Q1, the money you don't have to spend on that, profit. So really, in October, your biggest worry is, what else can I buy so that I don't get taxed on this? I think that is a very good worry to have. If I can't buy nothing else, let's take a business trip, because that's an easy way to spend $5,000. That's an easy way to spend 10 grand. $2,000 plane ticket to Taiwan. Come on, y'all. $1,500 plane ticket to the Philippines. Come on now. We're diversifying our staff now. We're going to fly to the Philippines and go find us some Filipino women that'll work for us for $500 a month. Come on, $700 a month, because we're going to give them a bonus. Y'all got to understand now. Y'all got to understand there's ways that we can make money for us. Because I gave you countries that will pay you to start businesses there. They will pay you to invest there. They will give you green cards if you bring a bunch of money there to invest there. They will give you dual citizenships. They will some of them will give you, if not free, reasonable housing accommodations, just because you're coming over there and doing low income housing development. Isn't that some shit? Most of the opportunities that are emphasized by every country around the world is low income housing, real estate development. Yet there's a 65% deficit in low income housing, real estate development. Why? Why? The numbers add up. You know why? Because other people are doing it wrong. They heard about the big venture on the left. You can make a larger quantity of money with less stuff, and everybody's going that way. Which means you got this big ass golden goose over here, where you're going to make less money for larger stuff that the government's going to thank you for and give you extra money to do, which means that you don't have to put 60% of your profits back into your company to expand, because the government's going to give you the money to expand. Man, all right, y'all gonna see, as I tell you I told you so, y'all gonna see that we're gonna have to tiptoe through and close on a ton of low-income housing real estate developments that's going to allow for the extra 65 houses per 100 low-income families to start being met by us. Because if ain't nobody else gonna do it, you can't just find a problem and keep bitching about it. You got to find a solution to the problem. So if the problem with homeless population is the fact that we get a 3 to 5% increase on homeless population every year due to the increase of inflation and the decrease of pay scales, we need to find a difference. So if we're going to find a difference, we need to offset the profits and then utilize that in some way, shape, or form, where the debt from allowing low-income individuals to thrive in an inflated market is offset by the profits from the society that appreciates your efforts. I can tell you right now that if everybody knew one place to go to throw their money at, where everybody would end up with a cheaper place to stay, at 165 billion Americans, that at least 70 million Americans would invest in that. And if 70 million Americans gave you $1 a month, you would be getting $70 million a month. Long as your overhead is less than $70 million a month, you could find yourself expanding on a multi-million-dollar operation. All it takes is for you to find another way. With that being said, that's all I got for you guys for tonight. I really appreciate y'all coming to tonight's podcast. Make sure that y'all follow us again tomorrow. We're going to try to start it at closer to 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, but typically we get things teed off between 10:15 and 10:30, but we're going to be here every night. We try to give you like a 2-hour podcast. We don't let the sun rise without going live. So if you get here before the show starts, don't worry, it's going to start. Just chill out with us. Throw some comments in the comment section. We'll run your comments through the opening credits of the show. And we've got something new for y'all every day of the week. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're talking about business and finance. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we're talking about personal development. We want to make sure that you fix your mindset for your personal life so that you can focus on your money, so that your decisions in your personal life is not messing up your money. Then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we want to talk about how to make your money make money for you so that you got more free time to enjoy your personal life. On Sundays, we're going to be doing questions and comments from the fans where we talk about everything under the sun so that anything that wasn't covered can get covered. Feel free to ask questions on the channel. Even if you're on Twitch or on Twitter, you can drop a comment in the comment section, and I guarantee you, if it's appropriate, everybody will see it. Long as I saw it, everybody will see it. So if you got a question, if you're watching the show, I know you guys are used to just watching and learning and listening and writing stuff down and stuff like that. But if you got comments, basically, I got to tell you, if you throw something up here, more than likely, I'm going to throw it up there. So you'll see your little Twitter logo up there, your little Twitch logo up there when you drop something up there from the comment section. You'll see it, and more props to you, because the more interactive you are, the more things you learn. There is never a stupid question that can be asked. It is just an inappropriate time to ask it. And here on This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, there's very few times that the question is inappropriate. So, with that being said, ladies, I'm going to ask you, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And fellas, we're around about 72% followership on the podcast right now. The ladies are starting to creep up a little bit more again. I really appreciate that. But fellas, this is a male-driven podcast from a male's perspective. So make sure that you share the podcast with some of your homeboys, some of the juniors. Find some of these young bucks out here that don't know what they're doing with their life. Share a link to the podcast. Share them one of the investment episodes so that they can listen to how they can make them some damn money. That way they can stop being broke, struggling, and trying to make ends meet by working themselves twice as hard when they don't necessarily have to. Because you can make a difference just by sharing knowledge with everybody. That could be your mark in life. It's just sharing knowledge with other people. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night. On my way out the door, special shout out to Bayside, Mr. Satellite, Usman, Nico, Max the Poser. I really appreciate you guys. Danny, Stefan, Red Void from Twitch. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. And I'm going to see y'all tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.